extreme pressure, the limit is just a marker. Grip is confidence. Confidence is performance. Defying the laws of physics, chasing the impossible. Years of research, precision, and expertise. Gains measured in milliseconds, driving progress far
Established as the home of the French Grand Prix for over a quarter of a century, MotoGP has landed back in Le Mans with over 100,000 fans dreaming of another fairy tale home win. The Bugatti circuit is well renowned for endurance race, but MotoGP takes top billing today in this motorsport mad part of France. Can Jorge Martin power to a second double win in Le Mans? It's time to race in MotoGP. Built back in 1965, the first Grand Prix took place here at the iconic Bugatti circuit. 4 years later in 1969, a short 5-kilometre drive outside of Le Mans, 200 kilometres southwest of Paris, 4.19 kilometres, 2.6 miles in length, 14 corners, as you can see, 5 left, 9 of them right, including 2 scary right-handers to kick off the lap. 6th gear, you power through the first corner. La Chapelle, there's been drama throughout the weekend there, into turn 6. The Shimano Burpes, turns 9 and 10. Always a good overtaking opportunity around this Le Mans circuit. Hard on the brakes, particularly downhill into the tight right-hander of Garage there. That's turn 8. Short in length, but plenty of overtaking hot spots, including turn 3. After you sweep through the first corner, this was Fermin Aldeguer on home hero Fabio Quartararo last year. So yesterday's Tissot sprint began with a factory Ducati 1-2. Pecco Bagnaia on pole position for the first time this season. Fabio Di Giannantonio's hopes after a shocking start were ended when he crashed out, and then Pedro Acosta followed shortly thereafter. Frankie Morbidelli also on the floor. But the big story so far of the weekend, we are going to be missing reigning world champion Marc Marquez here in Le Mans today, and next time out in Catalonia. A fracture in the right foot for Marc will see him ruled out of the next 2 Grand Prix. But Jorge Martin, after an enlightening, electrifying start on the factory April from the middle of the 3rd row of the grid in 8th, charged his way through. It took him 4 corners to take the lead from the 3rd row of the grid, including that mesmerising around the outside overtake into the 3rd chicane ahead of Marco Bezzecchi, Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Marco Bezzecchi still leading the MotoGP World Championship coming into this 5th round of the season, but his advantage just 6 points ahead of round 6 in Catalonia next weekend. Jorge Martin on the charge. Yesterday's sprint success, a record-breaking 18th Saturday triumph for the Martinator. His last double victory, one of 5 career double victories for Jorge Martin, the 28-year-old Spaniard. Well, it came right here in Le Mans back in 2024. The season, of course, he went on to eventually win the MotoGP World Championship. With Marc Marquez sadly sidelined through more injury pain and another injury nightmare, more surgery looming for the reigning world champion. Who can take the fight now to the factory of Prix, who've been so dominant so far this weekend. Martin 2nd in the championship. He's got a 30-point buffer back to Pedro Acosta, 3rd overall, and already, with not even round 5 completed, it's Marc Marquez already facing a massive uphill task to retain his title. After yesterday's sprint, already 51 points behind championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. And we know he's going to be missing the chance to fight for 25 here today and the chance to fight for 37 next weekend in Barcelona. Hopeful of a return for the 93 in Mugello at the end of a busy May. This French Grand Prix, the first of 3 rounds taking place in a manic May for MotoGP. And our build-up to what is going to be, what we hope, another dramatic 27-lap battle. Who will ever forget what happened here 1 year ago in 2025 when Johann Zarco sent the home fans into raptures The noise, you could barely hear yourself think. Noise heard in Paris, noise heard in Marseille in South France. Zarco won a flag-to-flag race, which saw him become France's first Premier Class winner in 71 long years. We've had some early morning rain here in Le Mans, which might have really tipped the balance back in favour of Johann Zarco. He would have really fancied maybe a fairy tale back-to-back wins here in front of his home crowd, but at the moment it looks like it's going to be a full-blown dry Grand Prix after a wet start to proceedings this morning when the Moto 3 race was run on a wet Bugatti track. So our build-up well and truly underway in the company of Matt Burt, Lewis will be in the commentary box, Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. A great Saturday, Lewis, for Jorge Martin. A sensational start, coming through to win that sprint. The flip side of the coin, though, more pain for reigning world champion Marc Marquez. We expect him to be under the knife, under the surgeon's knife once again in Madrid today to repair a fracture in his right foot and for more surgery on his right shoulder. We wish Marc a very speedy recovery. That's the message. Forza Marc from the factory Ducati team. There's just something missing about MotoGP when he is not around. Yeah,
we will miss Marc Marquez this afternoon. Ducati will, of course, miss Marc Marquez. What should have been a factory Ducati 1-2 on the grid will now just have Pecco Bagnaia going it alone for the factory team. This is why, after a tough sprint already to this point, as he just got onto the curb a little bit, but as soon as the front started to tuck and the rear then bit, Marc Marquez was a passenger as he was vaulted off of that factory Ducati. It's the latest in a line of very high speed and painful crashes for Marc Marquez this season. The Friday morning in Austin, Sunday afternoon in Jerez. This was one crash too many, though, for the reigning world champion, who fractures a toe in his right foot on landing here when he slaps back onto the tarmac. The Shoei helmet and the leathers doing a brilliant job there of making it as pain-free as possible. Not that it was ultimately for Marc Marquez. It's meant two things. It's meant that he misses this Grand Prix and the Catalan Grand Prix with the broken toe, but it does also bring forward a planned operation on his shoulder, which was due to take place after the Catalan Grand Prix. That will now be brought forward to ensure that hopefully the next time we do see Marc Marquez, he will be fully fit.
Yeah, some damaged metalwork in that right shoulder has been causing an issue with the radial nerve in Marc's right arm. The legacy of that, or the consequence of that, results in pain, numbness in your fingers, in your hand and in your lower arm. This was a tough watch yesterday. Marc going to get some medical treatment. Today is going to be the 35th Grand Prix that Marc will sit out after his injury hell began at the Spanish Grand Prix, when then, of course, a Repsol Honda rider back in 2020. So a day off, unfortunately, an unwanted day off for his crew. And then with the picture there, you can see with the headset, Marco Rigamonti, his crew chief. 51 points Marc sits behind Marco Bezzecchi in the championship. You could never, ever write off Marc Marquez. But when he returns to actually potentially at the earliest in Mugello, he could find himself 80 or 90 points back if Bezzecchi and Martin jump all over him while he is down at the moment, Marc Marquez. And 80, 90 points. I mean, we are in the Sprint Grand Prix era, Lewis, when there's 37 points available. But even for Marc Marquez, that does sound like a pretty tough task.
Yes, the world champion is going to have to hit the sort of form that saw him run away with the championship in the first part of last year to keep his hopes of an 8th MotoGP crown alive. This is where it all went wrong for Fabio Di Giannantonio, or where it started to go wrong for the VR46 rider. He's 3/4 of the way to the back of the field at this point after another disastrous start for Digia. Struggling to find the right bite point, he says, at times with the clutch on board that Ducati. This is how it looked like from on board, and you can see we were looking at the sky for a lot of the first 30 metres or so of this start. They swamp past him left and right. The two Trackhouse Aprilias are past him. Luca Marini goes past him, and it's at this Dunlop chicane later on in the sprint. Here you're going to see it. He crashes out and is grateful to the fast reactions of his teammate Frankie Morbidelli for missing him. A Saturday afternoon to forget for Fabio Di Giannantonio.
Yeah, Marini started the sprint in 15th place. Well, there is Johann Zarco. A special feeling coming to the back of the LCR Honda garage. Can he complete a dream double here in front of his home crowd? Well, Fabio Di Giannantonio, of course, in Marc Marquez's absence, gets bumped onto the front row of the grid for this French Grand Prix. Can he make a better start here this afternoon? Let's get the thoughts of the boss who chose Lucci, who joins Jack.
Yeah, that's the big question coming into this one. Now on to the front row of the grid. I'm sure you, like us, are going to be watching the start and hoping that Fabio can get it nailed, Uccio.
Yeah. Ciao to everybody. Yesterday, unfortunately, we don't make a good start, and we lose our position. And after we crash, today we start from the first row. We need a good start, and especially we need the first 5 or 6 corner. We need as a very, very strong. And now we are here to our engineer try to decide the front tire is a big question, or hard or soft, because also the soft was good for the race, not so bad. Now the temperature was more for the soft, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, it's a strong race for sure.
Absolutely. Your man in the news as well. Does seem as though you desperately wanted to keep Fabio at VR46, but sounds like he might be leaving.
Yeah, for next year? Yeah, but it's not easy to Fabio remain here with us, because arrive a lot of requests for him, for the other team. We'll see what happens. For sure after Barcelona we know better.
I think Davide Tardozzi did confirm that he will be leaving the Ducati family at the end of the year, so that does open up opportunities.
Yeah, but it's not the 100%.
No, not done yet.
Not now the 100%. No. We'll see.
Good luck in this one.
Grazie, ciao.
Grazie, ciao Uccio Salucci, grazie, ciao Jack Appleyard as well, conducting that interview with the Italian Valentino Rossi's right-hand man, of course, for so many years. Watch this space, I guess, is all we can say as regarding Fabio Di Giannantonio's future. Yeah, if you believe the gossip columns and some words coming out of some senior figures at Ducati, he's off the pastures new next year, very strongly linked to KTM's factory squad with Alex Marquez next season. He's seemingly had offers to go to a couple of different teams. Trackhouse are pretty well monitoring his situation. This is contact at turn 4 yesterday. Pretty hefty old contact as Jorge Martin somehow charges through on Marco Bezzecchi, clattering into Pecco Bagnaia's right knee from the left-hand side of Fabio Quartararo's factory Yamaha. Of course, those two have had some battle royales down the years. At the checkered flag, Pecco Bagnaia second for the 3rd sprint in a row, and Fabio Quartararo, brilliant performance by the Frenchman, who was similarly all at sea on Friday, down in 17th place, wasn't it? At the end of the play, or end of the situation on Friday. It's Fabio Quartararo then sporting that absolutely beautiful, drop-dead gorgeous home run livery. His best sprint since Portimao last year.
Yeah, he did his home fans proud on Saturday. Remember, he started today in qualifying 1, and we weren't really liking his chances, it has to be said, at getting through that session until he topped free practice 2. And it certainly does feel as if he's settled on a setup that he's pretty happy with. Of course, he's not perfectly satisfied with where that V4 Yamaha is at, but certainly the best weekend that Fabio Quartararo has had and the best sprint result that he's had so far this year. Can he back it up with his best Grand Prix result? Hasn't finished any higher than 14th so far on a Sunday. Quartararo, guess we'll be eyeing the top 10 today.
Well, he's won a sprint from 7th place so far this season, Jorge Martin. He did that, of course, in Austin, Texas. Can he win a Grand Prix from 7th? Of course, he moves up 1 place with Marc Marquez's injury absence. And just check this out. Watch in awe as Jorge Martin avoids the slow-starting Fabio Di Giannantonio. Straight away through on Quartararo, Mir and Acosta. And then he's lining up this super special move. Just look at this. Around the outside of Marc Marquez, a 7-time MotoGP World Champion, Pecco Bagnaia, a double MotoGP World Champion, and the World Championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. Breathtaking manoeuvre this by Jorge Martin. Let's hope he's watching it on these screens inside the Aprilia garage. Marco Bezzecchi said he could hear an engine on the outside, but the last thing he expected to see picking him off for the lead through turn 4, it was the number 89 of Jorge Martin. That start, that brilliant ride around the outside and through, the best riders in the world, best riders ever to compete in MotoGP, saw Jorge Martin take his 18th sprint victory. That's a new record. The start was good. The midpoint of the race was brilliant, the finish was exceptional, some sprint by the Martinator.
And can he do it again this afternoon? Can he do anything like that in the first 4 corners of today's Grand Prix? Of course, perhaps doesn't have to be quite as hasty today, but I'm sure if he can do the same, he will. Saw from that replay, he was already past Gian Antonio Acosta and Quartararo before he'd even clicked up into second gear. That Aprilia, of course, take nothing away from what Martin did once he got to Dunlop, but that Aprilia is clearly the fastest bike off the start line. Remember back in Jerez when Bezzecchi made his way straight through into second place and Martin got himself up into the podium battle on the first lap. And of course, if it wasn't Martin that was going to lead on that first lap, it would have been Bezzecchi. So Pecco Bagnaia, no doubt, it'll be in his mind as he leaves the start line. He's going to be under siege from Aprilias.
So just as he did in Phillip Island, Sepang last year, and the back end of 2025, flying solo for the factory Ducati team is Pecco Bagnaia. He's looked back to his best, hasn't he, this weekend? Pecco, he had his best Friday of the season here in practice, but Marco Bezzecchi, a big obstacle in front of Pecco as he looks to win his first Grand Prix since the Japanese round in Motegi. What a weekend that was for the factory Ducati team on the occasion that Marc Marquez did win his 7th World Championship. But factory Ducati success has been few and far between in recent weeks. They have not had a podium now in the last 9 Grand Prix, their worst running well over a decade. As Marco Bezzecchi looking for a bit of revenge, he wants bragging rights back, doesn't he, in that factory Aprilia garage, because there's no question about it, one of the major threats looming for Bezzecchi in this year's championship is coming from close quarters from the opposite side of that factory Aprilia garage. 6 points is the tight gap between Bez and Martin. Could be an interesting management proposition. How do Aprilia handle 2 top riders fighting for the top prize in global motorcycle racing?
Yes, as we go through this season, this is just round 5 of 22. They are for sure going to be battling over a lot more than bragging rights once we get to Valencia late in the season. Pedro Acosta, I'm sure we're pretty keen for that graphic to disappear off the screen. That's not a record that he wants to break today, but I guess we can't rule it out. Pedro Acosta starts from 4th place on the grid. Did say on the eve this weekend he feels his bike is mega in the wet. Doesn't look at this stage, although there is still another half an hour until lights out for this all to change. Doesn't look as if he's going to get a wet French Grand Prix. So can Pedro Acosta get himself in amongst the Ducatis and Aprilias up ahead of him on the grid in the dry?
He has scored at least 1 podium in a Grand Prix weekend in 8 of the last 10, be it in a sprint or a Grand Prix. So he has got great top 3 recent form, has Pedro Acosta, but he was biting his lip when he saw that graphic on the screens in the factory KTM garage. A rider who did winning for fun in Moto 3 and in Moto 2, but this is going to be MotoGP start number 46, and he does remain winless. A record he's going to try and rectify very quickly. Long odds on Alex Marquez winning back-to-back Grand Prix after his Sunday brilliance in front of his home crowd in Jerez last time out. It's been a tough weekend so far for Alex. Not helped, of course, by a tip-off yesterday. His lowest qualifying in 13 since the Hungarian Grand Prix last year as well. And some painful memories of this French Grand Prix last year for Alex, because he crashed twice in that flag-to-flag battle.
Yeah, podium on his first visit here back in 2020 in wet conditions, of course, but hasn't been on a Le Mans podium, certainly not a Sunday podium since then. Was a sprint podium finisher here last year. Zarco for president, it says there on the sign up above the Honda box. I'm sure there are about 100,000 who would also give Joan their vote. What about Joan Mir, who now gets promoted up onto the 2nd row on the factory Honda? We had a face full of Fabio Quartararo's Yamaha in a different livery to that one yesterday, and Mir just could not find a way past the flying Frenchman. It's onto the 2nd row and looking to try and bank some useful Sunday points today as the 2020 World Champion.
58th sprint yesterday for the 28-year-old Spaniard. That was only the 4th time he has finished inside the top 6. He was just happy to see the checker flag last time out in Jerez, wasn't he, Joan Mir? First time in 2026 that he has got to the finish line after DNFs in Thailand, Brazil and over in America. He's pretty confident, actually, Mia was saying, in his potential today in a dry race, which, as it stands, I'm sort of looking rather tentatively skywards to see if there's any threat of rain. It doesn't really look like there's anything going to be threatening Le Mans anytime soon, which will be good news. Maybe not such good news if you're a fan of Johann Zarco. But, yeah, Joan Mir feels like he's potentially got the pace to fight for the podium here this afternoon.
I feel it's essential that he clears Quartararo's Yamaha on the first lap if he's to fight for that. Ayagura, well, he didn't seem too confident when our colleague Elliot York asked him about a podium challenge tomorrow. He felt that was going to be too difficult. I guess that was when he thought he was starting 9th rather than 8th, so potentially a little less of a steep hill to climb for Ayagura today. Once again, it feels like we're going to be getting to the end of a weekend and saying if only Ayagura had qualified higher. 3rd row for him for this Grand Prix, but we know he's got very strong pace. The longer it goes, of course, he did come through the order ultimately to take 7th in yesterday's sprint.
5 top 6 finishes in MotoGP so far for the 2024 Moto2 World Champion. 3 of those have come in our first 4 Grand Prix. He's been liking P5 a lot this year, hasn't he, Agura-san? 5th in Buriram, 5th in Goiânia, and 5th last time out in Jerez. His podium potential at the moment is being compromised by his qualifying performances and his confidence in particular on fresh rubber. On new rubber in time attacks is something that Agura-san is going to have to step up, and just when the rubber is fresh at the start of race as well, whether it be a sprint or a Grand Prix, just takes that little bit of time to find the confidence, maybe a little bit longer to just generate the optimal temperature in the tyres underneath him. But when he does get going, Agura's got pace as quick as anybody in MotoGP right now.
27 laps ahead of us. That is an awful long time for Ayagura to make his way up towards the podium. He's come from the 6th row in a Moto2 race to finish on the podium here in the past, so he does have previous of launching a Sunday rescue mission from deep on the grid. Sighting lap is underway then, and once again it is a bumper French crowd here this afternoon. They've had to go through all sorts of seasons already today, from the pouring rain after warm-up. The sun briefly did start to peek through the clouds during late Moto3, early Moto2. We're sort of in the middle of those at the moment, but as it stands, this huge crowd on course for a dry Grand Prix. Let's head down to the grid and hear from a Formula One star from this part of the world. Racing Bulls, or Red Bulls, Isak Hadjar is with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be joined by Isak. I remember chatting to you last year, different conditions today, but once again, I imagine that you're loving this French atmosphere and supporting the home heroes in Fabio and Johann.
Yeah, I mean, the weather is still threatening, so we never know what can happen, but yeah, you know, I'm here to support my friends, and it's always a pleasure to see all the riders doing what they do the best. It's always very impressive.
I know you spend a lot of time chatting with Fabio, you're very close with him. How do you rate his chances, and what do you make of the effort he's putting in this year, and obviously not a package he would like to be on?
I mean, we all know how talented he is, and you know, when the bike gets a bit better, he makes the most of it, and I think it's showing this weekend. They found a bit of improvement, and he's doing really well. He's doing the best he can. Hopefully things go his way, and he can bring one out of podium. It's going to be very tough, but why not?
And just finally, what do you make of MotoGP? I know that you love coming and experience it. There really is nothing quite like it.
I mean, as a kid, you know, it was very simple for me. It was Ayrton Senna, Valentino Rossi, the guys I was looking up to. So obviously I chose Formula One in my life, but I'm still a huge fan.
I'll have to get you on one of these bikes one day. Great to see you here. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Great to another Formula One superstar, Isak Hadjar, enjoying the home Grand Prix experience here in France. Of course, current Formula One world champion Lando Norris, we know he's a massive MotoGP supporter. I'm sure he's tuning in, watching the action at home as well. Well, unfortunately, after his best sprint yesterday, a 14th at the checker flag, not what he wanted, of course, but triple world superbike champion Toprak Razgatlioglu's very tough introduction to MotoGP continues. We can see there clearly on screens, smoke billowing out of his V4 powered Pramac Yamaha. A race on now for Toprak just to be in this race, Lewis.
Yeah, the pit lane closes in 2 minutes time, so Toprak quite clearly won't get out in time for that unless he's been able to find a very fast lift back to the pits. As you can see there are wet tyres on his second bike, so you'd imagine this bike is also set up for wet conditions. So Toprak essentially, he'll be hoping that we don't have a flag-to-flag Grand Prix, because he will not have a second bike to jump on.
Yeah, whatever for Toprak Razgatlioglu starts this French Grand Prix, and he will have to finish it, because there's going to be no spare machine available for him. And of course now, with all the smoke that was pouring out of that Pramac Yamaha, the marshals are on the scene just to make sure that there was no fluid being dumped on circuit as well. Looked like from the replays, as soon as Toprak realised there was an issue, he got off the circuit as quickly as he possibly could. Obviously experiencing some kind of issue as he came out of Garage Fair. 15th in Austin, the only time we've seen the 29-year-old Turk trouble the point scoring places so far this season. On the front row of the grid then, Toprak has quickly got back.
They just have to send him out on, I guess, the wet shot bike, and then they'll just change the setup once he gets to the grid.
He knows. Toprak Razgatlioglu now is just hoping and praying that there is no rain, because he's going to be in a whole world of pain if it does chug it down here in Le Mans. Let's go back down onto the grid, and third in the World Championship is today. He breaks his winning duck in MotoGP. KTM star Pedro Acosta with Jack.
Pedro, just having big conversations with your team on the grid. What were they about?
Well, not quite an easy decision which tyre to use today, but anyway, we'll be allotted today.
In terms of the weather, do you don't think there's going to be any rain coming? Should be dry?
Don't look quite okay, but anyway, we will manage.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Pedro Acosta as we run through the grid.
Pecco Bagnaia, Marco Bezzecchi, and of course Fabio Di Giannantonio now your front row, with Marc Marquez ruled out. Soft front, soft rear certainly is the initial information. Also for Acosta, Quartararo and Mir on the second row. Martin, Agura and Alex Marquez make up your third row. Zarco, Rins and Raul Fernandez on the fourth row of the grid. Bastianini heads row 5 from Luca Marini and Frankie Morbidelli. Next up we will have Toprak Razgatlioglu. He can start from 16th. He did get back out of pit lane before it closed. Diogo Moreira and Jack Miller join him. Fermin Aldeguer, Brad Binder and Jonas Folger, who's in for the injured Maverick Vinales, complete our grid, which of course with Marc Marquez ruled out is down to 21 riders.
Nico Salucci, VR46 boss, made a very good point to Jack a few moments ago, didn't he? I mean, yesterday's sprint was running by Le Mans standards, tropical conditions. It was 24 degrees ambient temperature. Track temperature through that sprint was 38 degrees. It's a lot cooler, much chillier ahead of this Grand Prix, so it doesn't look like anybody feels it's worth the risk over the longer distance going for the hard front. Is that the key last minute decision? Do you go hard front or do you go soft front? The soft front certainly you'd think would be the preferred pick in these cooler conditions. You'll lose stand up or straight up braking performance. You'll lose stopping performance, but you'll certainly have the better turning, the better edge grip with the soft. And it looks like at the moment, as suspected in the cool conditions, the cloudy conditions, the soft front is going to be the option.
Well, Jorge Martin said on Friday that when he ran the hard front tyre, it took him 3 to 5 laps to get temperature in the left side of that front tyre, because it's a predominantly right-handed circuit around here. Joan Zarco, though, well, his main thought will be about trying to do the 100,000 French fans proud. He goes from 10th on the grid. He's with Jack.
Yeah, he is indeed. I'm sure lots of memories flooding back from 12 months ago. Looks as though this one will be in different conditions. There's a huge crowd here, Joan, all hoping you can put smiles on faces. What can you do today?
It's going to be a dry race. I think we won't have enough of rain to swap to the rain bike, but if I can get the same good feeling as on Friday, I think I can enjoy a nice race with the top 10 and with a decent pace. Starting on the fourth row doesn't give any chances for the podium, so that's why I'd like to enjoy a good pace and take the points of the top 10.
Have a great race.
Yeah, mercy for speaking to us, Joan, in this high-pressure situation ahead of his home Grand Prix. I'm not sounding sort of too optimistic about his chances of being the King of Le Mans once again, but not too pessimistic either as well, was he? Although, clearly he feels like we are not going to get any rain intervention in this Grand Prix. Although, as he just mentioned, it seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Only a couple of days ago, though, on Friday afternoon, Joan Zarco was fastest here in front of his home crowd. You do feel if he's got any chance of fighting close to front, any chance of back-to-back Le Mans podiums, he's going to have to be really aggressive at the start. He's got to nail the start, in particular, coming from that fourth row of the grid. Anything, though, can happen in MotoGP. Anything can happen in Le Mans. We're not expecting rain, but 24 MotoGP races races in the modern era, half of them, 12, 50%, have either started wet or rain has started to fall. It's very, very unpredictable, the elements in this part of the world, so never say never, Joanne.
Particularly in the month of May. There's Fabio Quartararo then, of course, the other rider with so much home support here this weekend. He goes from the middle of that second row in 5th place, and yeah, tough ask you feel for Quartararo to hang on to that over the longer race distance today. This is, of course, another Yamaha where a lot of hard work is going on Toprak Razgatlioglu's bike, because clearly that was the bike that would have been set up in the eventuality that he needed it in wet conditions. So they've got some frantic activity now to make sure that it's set up for the dry.
We've talked about Trackhouse of Aprilia rider Ayagura's brilliant race pace. Can he fight his way through and get himself in the podium battle? Let's get the Japanese star's thoughts with Jack.
Aye, third row of the grid for this one. Looks like it's going to be dry. As always, your race pace looks really strong, so what's possible today?
Well, of course, we hit the safe condition at the start. It's a different position from this today, so yeah, you know, just do what I can out there and see how it goes.
Have a good one.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to the 25-year-old Japanese rider Ayagura. Qualifying has not been a disaster, has it, so far this year for Ai? Straight into Q2 in all 5 Grand Prix so far, but the problem is when he is in Q2, he sort of finds himself too far down at the wrong end of it. 11th in Texas, 11th in Jerez, and once again he was stuck down the wrong end of Q2 yesterday. Toprak Razgatlioglu's crew then are under the pump, aren't they? They've got to change tyres, they'll be changing brakes, they'll be able to change mappings on wet setting in that bike as well. Pedro Acosta then, 3rd in the World Championship. And he be in the victory hunt here this afternoon. Let's get the thoughts of Pedro's crew chief, Paul Trabatha, Jack.
Yeah, we just heard from Pedro walking off the grid, Paul. He said it's going to be a tough front tyre choice. Have you made your mind up, and what are going to be the keys behind that decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the edge, you know. And but the big thing, with the softness, you're really going to have to manage it. The guys who used it in the sprint was already too much. In these conditions, it's really tricky with the hard. So it's you got to go with your gut feeling and try to understand. If you're further back, it's easier to make the choice because you've got more bikes around you. But you know, with the way the tyre rule is and the way the tyres are, they need some help sometimes, you know. So it's a gamble either way.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks, mate.
Pedro Acosta said it was a lottery. His crew chief Paul Trabatha says it's a gamble. Are they going to make the right pick to get Acosta in contention here in this French Grand Prix? Pedro Acosta, 2nd he was in the Grand Prix in Thailand, 3rd he was in Austin. Let's quickly go back down to we're going to go down quickly to Jack. I'm not sure we can just pick it up with him just as yet. He's busy running around down there on the grid, trying to catch as many people as he can. Enea Bastianini, well, his sprint came to a premature ending yesterday. The Beast, of course, 2022 French Grand Prix winner here after that brilliant battle with Pecco Bagnaia. Well, there's been already some pre-Grand Prix drama, hasn't there, for Toprak Razgatlioglu. Looks like he is going to start this 27-lap battle. Let's get some thoughts from his boss, Gino Borsolo, with Jack.
Yeah, sorry for that false start. I was just running across to grab a word with Gino. Looks as though everything okay for Toprak. Is he going to start all okay?
Yeah, for sure he will start with a different bike, but we start just to change the setup from wet to dry. Should be okay in about a few minutes. Okay.
I don't think we're going to get any rain, but there is the threat. If we do, is that second bike ready to go, or is he just going to have to stay with this one?
I don't think so. We need to check, but same we have some problem related to the engine, so I don't think so. We can have a chance to start the bike again.
Okay, thanks, Gino.
So Toprak Razgatlioglu and his side of Pramac Yamaha are just going to be praying that we don't have a flag-to-flag situation for the Turk, because that would be a nightmare scenario. If he chucks it down the rain, he starts on slicks, well, he's got no choice but to stay out there, really, has he? There's Acosta, just getting information about another phenomenal French Grand Prix attendance here in Le Mans once again, 2nd year in a row. Last year was the first time ever in MotoGP history which we had a weekend attendance of over 300,000 fans, 311,797 to be precise. We've got 302,149 fans have come through the gates here this weekend. It is a must-see event. It's a bucket list Grand Prix, isn't it, this one, in Le Mans. Rain or shine, the French fans, they always turn out in force. They are always out en masse, whether it be supporting Johann Zarco, Fabio Quartararo. Of course, they are here for the home success, but they love their racing in this part of the world. Let's hope we get another cracker.
Let's head down to the grid then and hear from Fabio Quartararo's crew chief, Diego Gubellini, with Jack.
Yeah, great to chat with Diego. Middle of the second row. Just asked the same question to Johann, so same one to you. There's a lot of fans here that want smiles on faces. What can Fabio deliver, Diego? What can Fabio do today?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. It's the home GP. I just ask him to have extra focus, especially because the weather is critical. Let's see what happened on the second half of the race, because middle of the grid has a hard front, middle of the grid has a soft front, so it's difficult, very difficult to say something.
Thank you, good luck.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Diego Gubellini, who I'm sure is also entered celebrity status in this part of the world, given how closely he's linked with Fabio Quartararo. Well, we saw on screens that it would appear Pecco Bagnaia has changed from the soft front to the hard front tyre. Information there on screens is that Jorge Martin, yesterday's sprint winner, has done the same. They're going to be leaving this right up to the 11th hour before they make the decision in terms of which tyre, front tyre, they're going to start on. Everyone surely will go for the soft rear tyre. Well, as mentioned, there are over 100,000 fans here this afternoon for the French Grand Prix. In total, 112,167 of them. And if the hairs are standing up, and if you've not got goosebumps, you will in about 30 seconds' time when you hear 112,000 people singing the French national anthem, Le Marseillaise. It is always one of those standout moments, one of those goosebump-inducing moments on the MotoGP calendar. How must it feel if you're that man, Fabio Quartararo, looking to ride for his nation this afternoon? Let's pause for the French national anthem.
Goosebumps, pure goosebumps. A spine-tingling moment, as it always is. A absolutely rousing rendition of La Marseillaise here. Almost tears in the eyes of Fabio Quartararo and Johann Zarco down there on the grid. You can see what it means for them to be racing in front of their home crowd. Prix have never won the French Grand Prix. They've done a lot of winning already so far, haven't they? In 2026 is today the day they finally win in Le Mans. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Paolo Bonora.
Well, Paolo, once again, as you put your hand out and check if the raindrops are falling, I think there are just one or two very small drops. This is going to be an interesting one, but you've got two riders in fantastic form with a great opportunity.
Yeah, great opportunity for sure, but we are checking for the weather, as you correctly said, because this could be a game changer. Probably in the weather forecast in the last hours, it changed a lot. At the moment, it seems to be dry, at least in the
until the middle of the race. We don't know in the last part of the race, but we hope for sure to have a dry session. Here is very difficult to find the correct weather forecast, but at the end we are prepared. We are prepared at the moment with the dry and also for the wet situation.
Good luck, Paolo. Thanks. So there we go. Just to confirm, as I said, 1 or 2 raindrops just starting to fall. The temperature has dropped as well. This is going to be interesting.
It really is, Jack. Thanks very much. Yeah, well, Paolo Benoit there, suspecting maybe rain at the halfway stage this Grand Prix. We talked about the lottery, the gambler front tyre choice. We've seen Pecco Bagnaia on pole. Marco Bezzecchi alongside him on that front row, who have decided to go for the harder compound front tyre. Ayagura on the Trackhouse Aprilia likewise. So they feel that there's enough temperature to run the risk of racing that hard as it stands right now. How long they will be on these slicks, given the fact that there's rain in the air once again in Le Mans.
Yeah, it's going to be so important in the early stages to get some temperature into that front tyre. Joan Mir has now also gone across to the hard front tyre. We know Pecco Bagnaia has also made that switch. Let's get a word from Davide Tardozzi with Jack.
Yeah, hard front tyre for Pecco, Davide, but I guess the question is, how long is he going to be on them? Do you think this rain is going to arrive?
Yeah, here in Alemania the weather changed very quickly, so we'll see. It could be a flag-to-flag race or not. The forecast says no rain, but you never know here in Le Mans.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Precisely, Davide. You never know here in Le Mans, do you, what the weather will throw at us. Alex Marquez, another rider, Spanish Grand Prix winner, of course, winner in Barcelona last year. Our next stopover in this year's World Championship schedule next weekend. Alex will be looking for more glory in front of his home crowd. He too is also on that Michelin hard front tyre. A local announcer, as they so often do here in France. They don't really need to be whipped up into too much of a frenzy, the French fans, but they do a great job of it. Go, Joan.
How must that feel if you're Joan Zarco right now?
He said on the back of his helmet for his special home race helmet this weekend, Zarco did it, are 3 words emblazoned on the back of his shark lid. Well, can he do it once again? As we look at the shark, Pedro Acosta. Is the shark going to be doing a bit of swimming in Le Mans in the next few moments? As it stands, with rain in the air, spots are falling, as Jack mentioned. I'm just looking at the main grandstands opposite our commentary position. Thankfully, at the moment, nobody's going for the brollies, nobody's going for the raincoats. There's Pecco Bagnaia then, without a Grand Prix victory since that brilliant win at the Mobility Resort over in Motegi. He has not had a Grand Prix podium in 9 since that occasion. He's found his sprint podium touch of late, hasn't he, the 29-year-old Italian? But yeah, Sundays have been a real struggle, haven't they, for